This video is an introduction to text and lettering and is a great first video to watch. But there will be subsequent videos for text and lettering. You might want to learn about the Font Play tool, as well as specific videos for learning about arch text or vertical text or text along a path, and using the text tool for TrueType font artworks. And so there are other videos to watch for text, but this is a great first one to get started with. And essentially the text tool is found up here on the top of the toolbar, and notice that it has a small arrow, and that when you click on it, it opens up to show that there are several tools that come with the text tool. And so we have sort of horizontal text, circular and arch text, vertical text, text along a path, monogramming, and importing TrueType font artwork or text as artwork. And so there'll be subsequent videos for all of these tools, but today we'll just focus on sort of the basic horizontal text tool. And when I click on that, I want to point out that my sort of cursor now has like a letter A attached to it. And I can essentially click anywhere on my workspace to put down the words my text. And of course, you're not meant to embroider the words my text. Now you use the properties box to interact with the text. And so we'll go ahead and just change the text to say my name and click apply. And so you'll notice that right away it updates the text. And now you can edit the text in sort of more than one way, because I can edit it visually using the handles that are available on the workspace, or in a more methodical way using the properties box over here on the right hand side. And so notice that this is where you can change the text to say whatever you want. Just type your text in there. If you want to change the size of your text, or the spacing of the text, or the space between the lines of the text, or the width of the text, you can type in the numbers here. If you want to change the font, there's a box here. You click on that. It'll show you all of the different fonts that come with the software. If I scroll over them, it kind of shows me what they look like in the preview box above. And the little symbols to the left of them all mean something. Like O means this font has options. So if I choose broadcast and then click apply, notice that below the font choice is the style option. And if I look, it says default, but I also have a run stitch option, a satin outline option, and the default with a run around it. And so if I choose run, you'll notice that it now makes the text all be in a run stitch outline version. And so this is the concept, that you sort of enter your text and then you interact with it using the properties box. And so if I tell it to be 1 inch tall text, it will become, exactly that 1 inch tall text. The spacing is the spacing between the letters. If I type in 1, it puts kind of like a small space between each letter. If I type in 2, then it's going to put in a little bit more space in between each letter. Of course, you can also visually interact with the space between the letters, and that's with the handles that you can see. So the blue handle would move all of the letters after that handle, where a gold handle will allow you to move one letter without moving kind of any of the other letters. And so if you want to make unique and interesting kind of like arrangements of the letters, you can move them around in this kind of a way. But the blue handles would allow you to move all of those letters kind of at the same time, making a space less or more. And the gold handles put a box around this letter, which then allows you to actually interact with the size of that one individual letter and or rotate that one individual letter. And so when I have selected a gold handle, if I want to go back to seeing all of the handles, I simply click off of the sort of box, and now I can see, the blue handles, which are for moving everything after the blue handle, or access the other gold handles and then start to interact with those shapes. And so all of that to say, I'm in the edit text mode. And when you have the little blue and gold handles, that means you're using edit text mode. And I just want to point out that if I come up to the top and click on the select tool, that I'm no longer in edit text mode, and I now have the text selected. And so when I select text, I can pick it up, I can move its location, I can resize it with the corner handle, bigger or smaller, but it's not possible to interact with the individual letters when I'm in select mode. Select mode will treat this whole word like one individual thing. If I want to go back to edit text mode, I can right click while it's selected and choose edit text. And that brings back the handles that you're able to use while you're in kind of that edit text mode. And so what I'll do is click on the select tool and click on the empty workspace to let go of the text. And just point out that I can click on this word Fusion, and now I can interact with the properties for this word Fusion. I can see that it was the font, named Deanna. I could come in and look and see if it has a run stitch style, make that change, or any other kind of changes that you want to. Remember that when I select it with the select tool, I can do things like resize it. If I wanted to interact with the letter spacing, I would right click to go to the edit text mode, which changes the editing options, and now you have your blue handles and your gold handles. You also have other handles that are around the shape. This is for things like adding a perspective to your design. So now you're kind of changing the shape of the envelope is what it's called. We call the shape around text the envelope, and you can actually interact with the text envelope to create unique and interesting layouts for your text. And so kind of once again, if you click on your select tool, you're in that select mode where you could resize your text. You can stretch it by using a center handle or size it in proportion with a corner handle. But if you want to interact with the letters individually or with their envelope shape, you right click to go back to that edit text mode. And when you're in edit text mode, you can also right click to say reset the frame, and go back to kind of default sort of spacing and sizes. And then from reset frame, we could right click and we could do preset envelopes. So a bridge with a convex bottom, so basically straight along the top and kind of curved along the bottom, which is the same thing as simply moving the handle in the center at the bottom to make it concave or convex. And so in that way you can kind of change your envelopes. And once again, right click to reset the frame and kind of put it back to the default shape. And if you're done with edit text mode, you can click on your select mode to be able to, interact with it in a more sort of single sort of segment way. When you're in edit text mode or in select mode, you can still use the properties box to interact with the letter style or the style of the embroidery or the size or the spacing. So here it says line spacing. So that would mean if you had text that had more than one line. So if you had Fusion, and then you put in there, text like FTCU, right? So now we could have Fusion and FTCU on two lines. So notice that it makes kind of like one text segment that has two lines of text. And when you have two lines of text, you get to decide how much space is in between them. So it's 25% of the height of the letter. If I make that, for example, 50%, then when I click enter, you'll get more space between the letters. The other thing when there's multiple lines of text is you can choose whether you want to align them to the center or to the left or to the right. So if I change this to left, it will move that F for FTCU over to the same kind of left-hand side as the word Fusion. And then, if this was like Fusion, but, and it had a bunch of ends, you'd see what I mean. They would be stuck to the left, so they would be balanced to the left and not so much centered. Anyway, you can also go to the right or to the center. And so this is the kind of the basics of text. And there's certainly lots more that we can learn about text. But in general, to start a new text segment, you need to click on the empty workspace so you have nothing selected. Then when you click on the text tool, it allows you to interact with the different tool options. Whichever one you choose, you then need to click to place your new text. And it will always start with whatever font you used most recently, so it remembers the most recently used font. And of course, Fusion comes with several dozen fonts. I know that FTCU has kind of even more fonts than Fusion, like a lot more fonts, but there's quite a few that you have here in the Fusion software. But another thing that we can learn about, and again, we'll do a separate video for this, is there's also a checkbox for true type fonts. And when I check that checkbox off, then this box here is now based upon the fonts that came with Windows, and it's very different because now the software will auto-digitize the lettering as you create it. And so we'll learn more about true type fonts and using the different new text tool options in subsequent videos. I did want to point out that if you select a text segment and then you click on the text tool, it's kind of the same thing as if you right click and choose edit text. It takes you back into the edit text mode where you could interact with the letter spacing and or the letter enveloping. And so this is the basics of creating a new text segment, interacting with the properties box, and switching from sort of that edit text mode into the select mode. And so perhaps one more thing I can say about this properties box area is if you hover over the image of the text, it shows you all of the characters that are available in your font. And you can see there's quite a few. It goes away eventually, but if you want to look at it longer, you can actually click on this little question mark right here. And it just shows you that in this font, this broadcast font, there's all these uppercase, all these lowercase, these numbers, all this punctuation, plus a lot of special European symbols and characters. And so just know that if you see an image and it shows all uppercase and lowercase, like ABC uppercase and ABC lowercase, it means that that font includes both upper and lowercase. But if you scroll through and you find a font that goes ABC DEF, it means that font only includes uppercase letters, and so it kind of signifies that to you. And notice it shows me that the word Floriani in Circus font will only turn into an F because I typed it in upper and lower case. And if I really wanted it that way, I would need to type it in all uppercase. And now if I click apply, it will update to show the font with all of that text in all uppercase like that. And so that is how the lettering tools work. And so follow up with subsequent videos from the Fusion library. And I will say that if you own the Fusion software, then any video that was recorded for the Floriani FTCU software that's about text would also be a great one to watch, because although there are a lot more fonts in the FTCU, the basic tools are going to work the same, and so you may find even more videos that have been recorded there. Anyway, thanks for listening. Watch the next video.